They came without warning. No declarations of war, no diplomatic overtures, not even the courtesy of a false pretense. One moment, Earth's sky was clear. The next, three major cities, New York, Lagos, and Jakarta, were ash clouds. Energy lances from low orbit burned concrete, steel, and bone with surgical precision. Civilians never stood a chance. Entire blocks vanished in bursts of radiation. Hospitals, schools, transportation hubs, all targeted in the opening salvo. The attack lasted 7 minutes. By the time Earth's orbital systems could respond, the enemy fleet had already slipped into faster-than-light escape vectors, leaving behind 22 million dead. The world reacted in silence. The global net crashed from the sheer volume of traffic. Families tried calling names that would never answer. Emergency crews sifted through glass and ash, not bodies. Nations suspended rivalries. The planet grieved as one. The aggressors, later identified as the Zarnathi Dominion, had deemed Earth a target of strategic planetary acquisition. According to intercepted transmissions, they'd studied humanity through long-range scans, found no coordinated planetary defense, and concluded the species lacked the will for retaliation. They saw Earth's history as fractured, chaotic, self-destructive. They mistook progress for weakness. But the Zarnathi misunderstood. Earth had been at peace because humanity had grown tired of its own endless wars. They mistook stillness for submission. What they awakened instead was memory, and Earth remembered how to fight. Global response protocols activated under a long-buried defense pact called the Terran Accord. Ancient orbital platforms, long-thought ceremonial relics, powered up for the first time in a century. Military assets across the globe were rerouted to defense staging areas. AI defense networks pulled from cold storage reawakened, linking command structures into a cohesive force. Nations dissolved their borders to form a single voice, a single purpose: survival through response. Underground military councils formed within the day. One in particular, deep beneath the Andes, convened the High Command Emergency Assembly. Here sat Admiral Rainikale, a woman whose military career had started during the last terrestrial conflict, a woman who had lost 2 children in the Jakarta blast. She spoke little during those early meetings, but when she did, the words echoed louder than sirens. They didn't come for conquest, she said. They came for demonstration. We were made into a warning. Now we answer. Project Revenant, a defunct planetary retaliation initiative shelved decades ago, was resurrected. Deep space manufacturing stations were brought back online. The Reaper Initiative was signed into activation, an operation intended to target strategic enemy worlds with precise, overwhelming force. Humanity would strike not out of vengeance, but to ensure no one else would ever consider Earth vulnerable again. Meanwhile, far from Earth, Ambassador Leora survived the orbital bombardment by sheer luck. She had been representing Earth at a peace summit on the neutral station Salas Reach. The attack interrupted her mid-speech. When she demanded answers, the station's council informed her they could not get involved. Neutrality, they said. Procedures, they said. She didn't wait for protocol. 2 days later, Leora hijacked the station's broadcast network. Across thousands of inhabited systems, a message appeared uninvited. The image showed her blood-stained and furious, face lit by static, her voice unshaken. This is Ambassador Leora of Earth. My planet has just lost 22 million civilians to an unprovoked attack. Entire cities gone. You say we are new to the stars. You say we are uncivilized, unprepared, disorganized. But you've made a mistake. She stared directly into the lens. You attacked our home. The transmission cut. Across the galaxy, council members and sovereign leaders paused. For centuries, interstellar politics had been a delicate dance of calculated intimidation. Wars were fought through proxies and sanctioned engagements. What they saw in that woman's eyes wasn't strategy. It was grief sharpened into purpose. And they feared it. While the galaxy deliberated, Earth acted. The Reaper fleet, composed of 5 dreadnoughts, 3 carriers, and 17 cruisers, launched from Lagrange Point Zero. No flags, no signals, just momentum. Within days, a Zarnathi mining station on Kevlin Prime vanished. No distress calls, No survivors. A week later, the agricultural colony on Delta 6 burned from atmosphere to bedrock. Survivors from nearby sectors reported seeing human ships using mass reversion torpedoes, banned weapons from pre-ascension treaties. Earth wasn't just retaliating. It was broadcasting intent. Alien war analysts observed patterns. Humanity struck military infrastructure, resource operations, and command networks. They disabled communications before attacking. They never took prisoners. On occasion, one survivor was left behind, always a civilian, always a witness. These survivors told harrowing stories. Ships moving through sensor shadows, weapons that turned matter into mist, and soldiers who fought with no fear, who advanced through biohazard zones, who executed coordinated maneuvers that defied standard AI modeling. But it wasn't just the weapons. It was the silence. No ultimatums, no demands, no politics. Just destruction. Back on Earth, Kale stood before the Unified War Council. Data flickered behind her. Lost estimates. Intercepted Zarnathi communiques. Fleet movements. She spoke only when needed. She didn't speak of forgiveness. She didn't speak of victory. She spoke of clarity. They thought Earth would beg. They thought we would kneel. They thought wrong. We are not the children who once tore each other apart. We are the survivors who rebuilt. And now, we burn that knowledge into them. The human fleet didn't just retaliate. It adapted. Every engagement provided data on Zarnathi tactics, on ship design, on weaknesses. Within 3 encounters, humans began exploiting targeting gaps in Zarnathi propulsion arrays. By the 6th, Earth cyber warfare protocols could shut down Zarnathi power grids remotely. With each skirmish, humanity became more efficient, less predictable, more surgical. The enemy called it madness. Military strategists called it accelerated warfare evolution. The Zarnathi miscalculated again. They assumed Earth would act like other species, issue demands, seek reparations, threaten but stop short. But Earth had no interest in negotiation. Not after 22 million were burned alive. It wasn't just about the numbers. It was a message that came with the attack. A message that humans were irrelevant, dispensable. That Earth didn't matter. And to humans, that message was unforgivable. Alien factions began withdrawing from the Zarnathi alliance. Not out of morality, but self-preservation. Human retaliation wasn't a war. It was extermination with purpose. If humans weren't stopped, there would be no empire left to defend. But Earth had no intention of stopping. The Reaper fleet pushed deeper into Zarnathi space. Systems went dark in waves. Zarnathi leaders attempted to negotiate. They received silence. In desperation, they broadcast an apology. Earth never responded. The human fleet continued its advance. The galaxy watched as system after system fell into darkness. Star charts updated in real time, with sectors previously marked as Zarnathi-controlled now flag red, then black. It was not conquest. Earth planted no outposts, established no occupation zones. The Reaper fleet struck and moved on, a phantom force sweeping across space with terrifying discipline. Attempts to intercept were futile. Coordinated fleets disappeared mid-jump. Satellite arrays blinked out. Drones sent to tail human ships returned corrupted or blind. Other empires began deploying scouts toward Earth's territory, not to threaten, but to understand. What had awoken in this once-ignored backwater? What kind of species retaliated with such precision and fury, yet asked for nothing in return? No demands, no tributes, no borders, just unrelenting war. The Reaper initiative was no longer just military retaliation. It had evolved. Human neural nets, battle AIs, and command protocols updated after every skirmish, feeding from thousands of simultaneous simulations. Each ship's crew included combat engineers who reconfigured subsystems in real time based on engagement telemetry. There were no standardized tactics, only continuous evolution. To the galaxy, this made human forces appear chaotic, but to those within the fleet, it was adaptation, weaponized. Earth had unlocked something the stars had forgotten. Total war refined by trauma. Humanity had never been the strongest, fastest, or most advanced species. but it was the most experienced at surviving its own extinction, and it was willing to learn faster than anyone else. Within a month, Zarnathi Command collapsed. Their central hive net fractured under continuous digital bombardment. Artificial intelligence systems once used to coordinate their interstellar campaigns were hijacked, rewritten, and turned against them. Human cyber warfare protocols were centuries ahead in certain vectors, not because of superiority, but necessity. On Earth, AI integration had been forged under relentless caution, ethical collapse, and battlefield failure. By the time they were perfected, humanity no longer trusted clean systems. So they built dirty ones, redundant, unpredictable, human-guided. The Zarnathi, built on centralized control, couldn't keep up. As command lines failed, subordinate fleets disbanded, colonies declared neutrality, and former allies abandoned treaties. Earth's forces didn't slow. Their objective was clear: make an example so absolute that the galaxy would remember for 10,000 years. A planetary system called Faceless. 9 fell next. The Zarnathi had attempted to regroup there, believing it too far for humanity to strike quickly. They were wrong. Human ships emerged from deep FTL in coordinated micro-jumps, arriving between sensor sweeps. The attack lasted 12 minutes. Dreadnoughts released pulse-resonance missiles that collapsed defensive grids in harmonic waves. Atmospheric disruptions fried local power plants. Ground resistance was bypassed entirely. Humans didn't engage surface to surface. Instead, they erased the orbitals and jammed all signals. One facility was left untouched: the transmission tower. It activated exactly 3 hours after the human fleet departed. It played a simple message on repeat: we are not here to negotiate. We are not here to rule. We are here because you made us come. The Tovari Confederacy, once neutral in galactic politics, called an emergency summit. 37 species attended, both major powers and fringe collectives. They debated for 3 days. The conclusion was unanimous. Earth could no longer be treated as an emerging world. It was now a galactic force, one with no clear doctrine, no political factions, and no diplomatic playbook. They sent envoys. Earth turned them away, not with hostility, not with insult, but with silence. This terrified them more. Among the Zarnathi remnants, one leader still held influence: High Strategist Virectal. He had survived the initial purges by going off-grid, hiding in subspace nodes with loyalists. In desperation, he proposed a countermeasure, not military, but psychological. Humanity, he argued, was still emotional. Their rage was not strategic. It was reactive. If they could find a fracture, something deeply personal, they could force Earth to slow down, hesitate, question. A plan was hatched. A known Earth ship, the medical relief vessel Horizon's Mercy, was located en route to a civilian station. Its location was deliberately leaked. The hope was to bait humanity into responding emotionally. When the trap was sprung, the Horizon was destroyed by a kinetic impactor. No survivors. The Reaper fleet didn't pause. Instead, a new fleet designation appeared: Obsidian Directive. No broadcast. No explanation. The Obsidian fleet hit a Zarnathi archive world 4 days later. It wasn't just a military target. It was their cultural nexus. Vaults containing their history, philosophy, and genetic archives were atomized. Billions of years of memory were turned to molten glass. The entire planet became an artificial star for 72 hours. Galactic anthropologists wept. Even enemies of the Zarnathi mourned. But Earth did not, because on board Horizon's Mercy were children. In retaliation, the Reaper and Obsidian fleets began coordinating. Every remaining Zarnathi control system was placed on a calculated sequence: power disruption, orbital sterilization, surface isolation, extinction sweep. This wasn't revenge. It was erasure. Leora Tan, still stationed at Salas Reach, was visited by emissaries. This time, not to negotiate, but to beg. They pleaded for her to intervene, to restrain her people. They spoke of balance, of cultural preservation, of galactic order. She replied calmly, "You say we are destroying what cannot be replaced. So did we. You burned 22 million of us in a moment, and called it strategy. We burn your legacies because you taught us that mercy is weakness. They tried to offer reparations. She refused to acknowledge the offer. She simply repeated, "You made Earth bleed. You made Earth remember." Within Earth's high command, debates did occur. Whispers of the cost, the long-term consequences, the ethics of annihilation. But Kale dismissed them. We are not diplomats. We are not conquerors. We are witnesses. The galaxy needs to see what happens when you provoke extinction's memory. Internal morale didn't waver. Unlike other species, humanity didn't view grief as an obstacle to action. They had lived with loss so long it became a language, one that now translated into fire. A group of Tarsky engineers attempted to send an encrypted apology embedded in a Starlight Pulse message. It took 23 days to reach Earth. The response was returned in a waveform that restructured the Pulse carrier into a recursive data loop. The message played over and over, impossible to erase. It contained a single line: "We do not need your apologies. We need your absence." Alien civilizations took note, not just of the message, but the method. Earth's communication strategy was never direct. They used subversions, backdoor protocols, physical echoes. Their technology wasn't superior. It was personal. Emotional encryption, analog redundancies, chaotic layering. Systems designed not by optimization, but by experience. Their ships looked like nothing else because they were built by people who didn't trust perfection. The Council of Eight, a governing body spanning over 50 systems, declared a universal ceasefire across contested zones, not to protect one another, to avoid attention,